So I think, firstly, trust that whatever you're going through at the moment, which I know is a difficult time for everyone, trust that the universe, or whatever you call your universe, that there is a higher power that's pointing you in the right direction. So on the days when you're waking up and you're feeling like you don't want to let go of this thing, like you're a fashion label or you're a fashion styling business, just remember that I'm now working from a tropical hut, or at least I was, and living my best life as a result of losing two things that I would never have voluntarily given up. So just keep that in mind.
Welcome, everybody, to the JeffMara podcast. Today, we have an amazing guest. Her name is Amber Renae. She is a civil engineer, serial entrepreneur, TV star, and she inspires women to rediscover their wow factor through building their dream digital business, personal branding, and self-love. She also has her own fashion label, as well as being a fashion editor and fashion presenter on Foxtel's Fashion TV. She is the author of Dream Life, the book, The Boss Babe's Guide to Turning Your Online Business Dream into a Reality. She was on the TV show Project Runway as a designer, and now she's going to be on an upcoming TV show called Dream Life. Amber, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I'm excited to connect with you and your audience.
Thank you. So, what made you decide to leave the security of a civil engineering job and go for the entrepreneurial job that can have so much instability?
Great question. And I think this is what a lot of people are facing in the current climate, right? So a lot of people are thinking, is now the time that I quit the job? Or maybe they don't even have a choice. Maybe they're just being forced out of their secure, high-paying job, which, as we've seen from 2020, there's no such thing as a secure job anymore. So the way that I started this business is the same way I started all of my businesses. That first business was a fashion design label, but before that I was engineering. So what that transition looked like is I knew my engineering job wasn't lighting me up. I wasn't passionate about it. It paid the bills. I didn't mind going to work, but it wasn't my purpose. So they eventually, did I quit or did I get fired? I get fired. The only time I ever have a job, I get fired. But I think I quit that job, and I just followed my passion, which was making clothes. So I loved creating my own clothes. I loved making myself dresses. And eventually I used to make them for my friends. And then I thought, well, why don't I make a few tops for the local boutique and see if they want to sell a few tops? And that's how that business got started. So that business started with me on a sewing machine. We made 4 shirts the first week. We sold 4 shirts. The next week we made 8 shirts. 5 years later, we had 120 accounts around Australia and the world. We exported to Paris, Tokyo, LA, and South Africa. We dressed some of the biggest celebrities of the day, which back in the day was Paris Hilton. And this was before the internet. So doing like a big influencer marketing campaign before the internet was kind of a big deal. So that was my first business. And I got into that just by following my passion. So it wasn't some big grand scheme to have this big global business. I just was really passionate about making something, making clothes. And I was happy to do it for free. And that is, I think everyone thinks that there's going to be some big, they're going to wake up one day and see a big shining light that says, this is your purpose, with flashing lights, like purpose over here. But that's not how your purpose is discovered. Your purpose is typically discovered by just following the route of passion and following the inspiration and doing the things that you're really inspired to do. And the way that you follow that path is just by following your intrigue. So, looking at what you're fascinated, what podcasts are you drawn to? What YouTube channels are you drawn to? What do you like to read on the weekends? Follow that path and that will lead you to your purpose.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me ask you this. Do you think that sometimes your purpose is what you're successful at? And what I mean by that is besides doing YouTube and other stuff, I really love being a musician, but I never got to the next level at a musician. But being in YouTube, it blew up for me. So that's what I'm kind of saying. I mean, I love both. And if I think about it, I really love both. I don't know, maybe I even love being a musician more, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. So what makes me think, after listening to you, was that my purpose, or was YouTube my purpose, or what is my purpose? And what do you think about that? And how would you advise people on finding their purpose?
So I think what you said there is really important, because we all think that our purpose is supposed to pay our bills. Yeah. And I think that they are mutually exclusive. I think living on purpose and doing something that you love and something that lights you up each day, which in your case was playing music, but that necessarily maybe didn't create this, hugely abundant, wealthy lifestyle for you. And I think that's what people link the two together with. And I don't think that's a healthy, way to think about your purpose. I think your purpose is what lights you up each day. Are you supposed to monetize that? Maybe sometimes, but maybe also not. And I think putting the expectation on your purpose to pay your rent for you is a tricky situation, because you end up in the way it ended up with me. I used to love making clothes. That was a huge passion of mine. I turned that into a multinational business. And as a result, it stripped away all of my passion for fashion and making clothes. So I lost all of that drive. I lost all of the motivation for wanting to create something beautiful, because I had turned it into a business, which paid kind of well, sustained a sort of, a good lifestyle, but I lost the purpose and the passion in that because I made it pay my bills. So I think if you're looking at that kind of thought process, there's a book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She talks a lot about how her journey to become a writer, she was the writer of Eat, Pray, Love, global phenomenon. She talks a lot about how, she sees these writers expecting their passion, their purpose of writing books to pay their rent. And it really isn't the way that I see it happen most of the time. I see mostly you follow your bliss, you follow your passion, and mostly it's something that you love doing. And then you go and get a day job to pay your rent in between.
Yeah.
Or in your case, you build a YouTube channel.
Right. Yeah. And, actually, it started out as a hobby. I've been there since even before Google bought it. So it was just a total hobby. There was no thought of making money. I started in 2006, and they started, monetizing channels, I think, didn't even happen until 2010.
Wow.
And so, and I remember even I would get like 65 cents a day, and I was like so pumped up because I was like, man, this is amazing. I enjoyed it, and I was like, well, I'm making some money. I think that maybe people don't realize that even if you love someone and if you want to make it a business, you gotta work hard and you gotta grind at it. It's not like, it's just not going to magically appear. And for me, I was like the type of person that, as I would come home, I mentioned I was a chiropractor, but instead, I would come home and then do my hobby, which was YouTube in the evening time, instead of like, hanging out and watching TV.
Totally. And I think we've all got this glamorized hashtag entrepreneurial life because we see all these entrepreneurs on the gram, hey, here's me working on my laptop, which is what I do, but here's me, doing all the things. And so if you're not in that life, you assume that that's easy. You assume that you're just going to wake up, you're going to start your business, and you're going to be working on a laptop from a remote, deserted island. And yes, you can get there, but it takes years and thousands of hours of training and applying those trainings and action in order to get to that end result. And I think that's, hashtag entrepreneur is such a, everyone wants to be that right now, but I think people are, got these rose-colored glasses on about what that journey actually looks like. And, for me, I'm now in my third entrepreneurial journey, and I can tell you that none of it's easy. None of it's simple. You're putting out fires all day, every day. And really, you're quite often faced with more hardship than you are with more success. Right. So, I always say entrepreneurship is the biggest personal development journey that anyone can go on. So if that's the kind of ride that you want to sign up for, sign on up. But if you just want to sit, your laptop on a deserted island, then go and get a day job so you can buy a holiday on a deserted island, because they're not there.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're speaking of. And it actually came right to the perfect question is, how it is about having a lot of ups and downs, losses and wins. When you're down, what do you do emotionally to pick yourself back up?
So I've had a couple of really major down periods of my life, which have been caused from the loss of businesses. So my first business, that amazing fashion label, which I would never have closed down. I would never have quit it. I'm not a quitter. I'm a, do it to the end kind of girl. My manufacturer that I'd set up in Vietnam, he shut down and went out of business, which forced me to shut down and go out of business. So we had prepaid about $70,000 worth of product. We, paid him his fees. We bought all the fabrics. We bought all the patterns. He kept all that, shut all that down. And then we had to go out of business. So I had to go bankrupt. I found out that I'd basically worked myself to death. So I found out I had cancer, I had stomach ulcers, and I was on antidepressant, anti-anxiety pills. And following, and the biggest, the mindset around that was I treated that business as though it was a baby. So that to me was like a child, and it felt like I'd lost a child around that, which is just, such a dangerous association for anyone to think about their business. Like, your business is not an extension of you, it's a business. So making sure that you're keeping separate and, not having that sort of a relationship with your business for starters. But that was my very first period of extreme emotional trauma as a result of a business going out, failing, which I'll get to what I did to fix this, but I'm going to share my other trauma as well. So that period lasted probably about a year. I swore for about a year that I was never going to be an entrepreneur ever again. I was going to go and get a day job and, be sensible. So that was a very difficult period in my life. And then my second business was a fashion styling business. And within 3 short years of running that business, I had 2 of the best contracts in the country. So I was the fashion editor for Women's Health and Fitness magazine and the resident stylist at our biggest radio and TV network. So again, and I was a TV presenter by then. So I'd just done Project Runway. I got a job as the Australian presenter for fashion TV. And again, I thought I was living my best fashion life. And the universe came along and lovingly pushed me out of that business. So the effects of the global financial crisis had finally hit Australia, and all monies for things like fashion styling and TV presenting had dried up. I lost all of my contracts in the space of about a month and found that I was unemployed and unemployable. So again, I'd gotten to that place where it was like, but this is all I've ever wanted to do. All I ever wanted to do was work with celebrities, live this glamorous life. I was flying around the country, interviewing celebrities, dressing people for Cannes Film Festival. Like, for me as a fashionista, that was it. Like, there was no picking myself up and start again. That was I'd reached the top of that industry, and now those jobs didn't exist. So what do I do now? So again, it was like a huge mental breakdown of like, every dream you've ever had since you were a little girl is over.
Wow.
So all that you ever want, all that I ever wanted to do was work in the fashion industry. And at that point, it was clear that I would never do that ever again. And so again, I was faced with a severe depressive state for a long period of time, which gets me back to your question, which was, what do I do in those states? So what I always say is that when you're in that state, is you just want to lower your expectations and look at what you can do every day that's just 1% more than you did the day before. So we all think that, oh, if I just stay in bed for 2 weeks, then I'm going to wake up, and at the end of that 2-week period, then I'll be able to get out of bed. The depression will leave and I'll feel much better. It's not how it works. So if you're in a state like that, you just take small inspired action steps every single day just to get yourself to a place where you're just a little bit more in a slightly better place than you were the day before. And you never compare depressed Amber with 100% Amber. So the worst thing you can do is when you're sitting down here, go, oh, but I used to be up here and I used to be able to do 500 things every single day and achieve and tick off to-do lists. Well, no, you need to compare this Amber with the day before Amber. So then your story becomes, yesterday I couldn't get out of bed. Today I've gotten out of bed and I've sat in the sunshine for an hour. So I've had a good day. And so expressing that self-compassion, that kindness to yourself is the way that you gradually pull yourself out of something like that. And that's the manual way to do it. And I certainly believe that that's how you gradually pull yourself out of a depressive state. But, seek help. Seek help. There's so many beautiful experts and therapists and people sharing their natural healing and their natural energy work with everyone these days. So whether you can afford to go and pay for a therapist, or if you can just find someone who's giving therapy sessions online that make you feel a little bit better, and just focus your thoughts and your feelings on that.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's amazing that you pulled yourself out of that. It sounds like you were devastated and you pulled it off. So tip of the hat to you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It wasn't it was an ugly journey. It was an extremely ugly journey. Yeah. And was, riddled with deep emotional pain and grief and shame and trauma and all of the other emotions that go around with a loss like that. So yeah, and I think that's the other thing. We all sort of we all just see everyone's reel on Instagram, right? But you don't see the reality of what's going on behind the scenes. And I think sharing stories like that and sharing that this is what the entrepreneurial journey looks like sometimes, you don't always just get to have wins. Sometimes life comes along and kicks you in the ass, and then it's a matter of what you're going to do when you're down there. Right.
I totally agree. So how did you discover the e-course business? How did you make that jump? I mean, were you just online and said, e-course, let me look into it, or what happened?
So the fashion styling business had ended. So I knew that was the end of my fashion dream. And I also knew that I looking back, I knew that I'd had enough of the fashion industry and the people that are associated with that industry, but I would never have had the courage to admit that to myself, because that would have meant giving up on a lifelong dream. So, for people that are getting pushed out of things at the moment due to current life experience, current climate experiences, just be aware that I do believe now, having lived through these experiences, that there is a greater force, whether it's our subconscious or higher self or universe, whatever it is. But I do believe that we are all being led to our to live a more on purpose life. So this business started with my brother saying, hey, you need to build an e-course, and me going, oh, okay, this is in 2015. They didn't really exist back then. What I really knew was how to build a fashion styling business. I was very successful with that, and no one was really teaching that. No one helps anyone in the fashion styling industry. So I just sat down one day, got out my iPhone, and just taught everything I knew about becoming a successful fashion stylist, because I was passionate about it. I knew it. It was easy. I had passion. I had drive. I was motivated to do it. I had no clue it was going to turn into this business. And I would never have sat around and dreamed about running an online business. I wasn't sitting around going, oh, I want to work from tropical huts. Like, it's not something that I ever imagined I would ever do. Probably you with the YouTube, you're never like, I'm going to be a YouTube sensation. You don't sit around and do these things, but then next thing you know, you start small and you chip away at your passion, and it turns into whatever it's supposed to turn into. So that first e-course I was selling back in the day for like $19, like I was just giving it away because it was fun to do. And I knew nothing about online marketing. And in that first year, I took 18 e-courses in how to run an online business. And by the end of that first year, I made 6 figures in my first year. So through finding people that had already done what I wanted to do, and downloading their knowledge, wisdom, and insight into my business, so that I could skip this whole blood, sweat, and tears phase. Because all of my businesses, I just blood, sweat, and tears it. I didn't have a mentor. I couldn't ask anyone for help. It was a fashion industry. We don't help anyone. There was no workbook that I could download and figure out how to run a manufacturing label. Like, it didn't exist. And as a result, my first few years were like this. Like, they were traumatic in both of those businesses. Now, in my third business, my first year, it was difficult, but we just went like that the whole year, because I was like, okay, now I need to learn funnels, and I need to learn Facebook ads. I need to learn email marketing. Like, okay, who's someone that I can learn from? And I just bought courses, and that's how this business was so successful so quickly.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. How long did you think it took you to create your first e-course?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I honestly, because I've thought about reshooting it, because it was shot in 2015. I don't even look like that person anymore. And every time I go back to look at the content, I'm like, oh, this is such good stuff. I could never tell the stories as well as I told them back then. I feel like I just sat down. I shot it in my you would understand, like DIY shoot setup. So I shot it in my I had a walk-in robe that was soundproof, because there was so much fat clothing in there. So I sat in my walk-in robe and put some beauty lights up and just shot it on my phone. And I feel like the whole thing took about a week. Like, I don't think it was a big ordeal.
Oh, wow. I don't know a lot about e-courses. What you're saying, it was a video that they could download or get access to watch?
So the course itself, and it's the same course as it was back then, it's there's like 34 lessons on every single aspect of running a fashion styling business. So everything from working with clients to getting clients to the actual fashion-y side of it. So it's a great course, and it's available on demand. You can buy it, you can go through one of my funnels and purchase it, and you just, with all of my e-courses, you watch them on demand, you fit them in around your own life, and they're all videos. Obviously, I love creating video content like you, and they're face-to-camera videos with workbooks that you download and complete.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I had thought about doing e-courses myself at one point, but for me, my audience are children, and that's not really an audience I can tap into. And now it's in the States, they've really cracked down. And I mean, it's against the law to collect any data on children and anything. So, maybe if I wanted to teach people how to do YouTube, but I kind of think I personally enjoy doing it than teaching it.
Totally. And that's the thing. It may take the fun out of it for you. So why do it?
Right. All right. Let me catch a question here real quick. The person says, you are very beautiful. And then she says, do you have any fashion recommendations for middle-aged women?
Yes. So I'm going to give you 2 recommendations. One is based on body shape. One is based on skin tone, which is basically the foundations of fashion styling. So the first thing that you need to figure out is which body type are you? So rather than dressing to trends and rather than dressing to what's currently in fashion, you just need to dress to your body shape. And that way you will always look stylish. So for instance, a couple of years back, there was the trend that was androgynous, masculine dressing, really normcore, minimalist. That doesn't suit me at all. I'm really curvy, so I can't wear anything that's minimalist or normcore or androgynous. So for like a whole year, I didn't buy any new clothes because I'm like, I can't wear anything that's in the stores. So rather than just following what's on trend, really figure out what suits your particular body shape. And typically, most people have an asset. So it might be your upper asset or it might be your lower asset that you want to show off. But whatever it is, figure out what works really well for you. And there will only be certain types of styles. Once you figure out that particular type of style, replicate it. Don't think that you can go outside of that style. Don't think that if, you know, for instance, what's a good example here? So pants are always tricky for women. If you look really good in high-waisted, skinny leg jeans and the current trend is low-waisted bootleg jeans, you can't wear them. They're just not going to suit you because they're cut for a different body shape. So figure out what works for you, which, you know, there are various ways to figure it out, and stick to it. Don't go outside of that. And then with your skin tone, again, the biggest mistake that I see women making is that they're dressing for their wrong skin tone. So, and this goes for men as well. So the easiest way for you to figure out your skin tone, go and get a piece of nude fabric or beige, or I think you call it khaki over there. Get a piece of charcoal fabric, and then go and stand by your window and do a skin test and hold them both up to your window to your face to figure out which one makes you look brighter, more glowy, more healthy, more alive. So one will look better than the other. And so here's the thing. If you look better in beige, that means that you have a warm skin tone. If you look better in cool, it means you have a cool skin tone. So then you make all of your buying decisions based on your skin tone. You buy warm makeup, you get your hair streaked in the warm colors, you buy warm clothes. Similarly, you have cool hair tone, you buy cool makeup, you wear cool clothes. If you want to know what warm and cool are, cool is cool, clear, bright colors of the rainbow. So red, blue, white, black, gray, primary colors, you know, green, yellow, simple colors that we can easily identify. The warm colors are blended muted colors, like the color that you're wearing today and like a lot of your background. So it's mustard, maroon, peach, purple, a lot of the greens. So anything that's like a weird name to pronounce. So over here, it would be cherry red. Over here, it would be maroon. So that's how you know cool or warm.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I've got a little kit on my website. If you go to amber.courses, there's a kit you can buy for like $7 and it'll give you that whole explanation and give you lots of ways to identify it. It's super easy.
Oh, that's great. And when you mean charcoal, is that like black?
Like dark gray.
Dark gray?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, what's one of the great things about this podcast is like almost every time I learn something very interesting. I mean, not that everything else isn't interesting either, but you know, that's kind of like something that I wasn't expecting.
I know people love that story. So you're a spring. You are a spring, Jeff.
You can already tell. So that means I'm warm colored.
Right, you're warm. Yeah.
Warm. Okay, cool. So with all the careers that you've done so far, what do you feel like you're most passionate about?
If you had asked me this question in any of the careers, I would never have, I would have said it was that one. So when I was a fashion designer, that's all I ever dreamed of doing when I was a kid. So, you know, if you had said, what are you going to do after this? I would have said nothing. I'll do this until the day I die.
Right.
And then same with fashion styling. You know, I was so grateful when I was a fashion stylist. I was like, thank God I'm not designing collections and doing manufacturing and living in Vietnam for half the year and working on a sewing room floor. Thank God I'm now living this glamorous life and dressing celebrities and doing photo shoots every day and, you know, interviewing celebs. So at that time, I thought that was my best life. But now here I am. And it turns out that I'm a huge introvert. I really don't like people. So having to talk to people all day is not my best life. I love traveling. So I now travel I used to travel 4 or 5 months of the year. And obviously I don't do that anymore. And this business allows me to take my business with me. I can work wherever there is Wi-Fi. And also I really love helping people. I love teaching people. And so every single day I wake up to a message from someone going, oh my God, Amber, you've changed my life. I wouldn't, I've dreamed of doing this my entire life and now I found you and now I'm doing it. Thank you. I'm so grateful. And so, when do you get to run a business where you're getting messages like that every single day? And again, I would never have dreamed of becoming an e-course creator. I wasn't sitting around as a little kid going, I just can't wait to create e-courses and work on my laptop. I would, never. Right. So that's why and I can kind of feel like there's another iteration of me about to happen, and which makes me anxious, but I'm also like, it's okay, universe, I trust you. I trust you. It's okay. Whatever you think I should go into next, I'm happy to, no problem.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that you're an introvert, because I noticed that you're very active on Facebook, and I wanted to know, actually, what do you enjoy more, interacting with your social network or making courses?
I really don't enjoy, as an introvert, I really don't enjoy that social connection. So it's not something, like there are people, I obviously have a reasonable sized audience and people love to connect with me, but it's not something that I find it, if I do it because obviously it's necessary. And it's nice to hear from people that are interested in what I'm putting out in the world. But I find at the end of that, I feel depleted. So when I do that, I then need to go and recharge my introverted battery. So, and also I'm very boundaried around when I allow that into my life. So I know, I try to live in a state of flow when I'm during work week. So Monday through Friday, I've really analyzed and drilled down what states of flow that I feel, naturally flowy in. So for instance, on Mondays, I really love admin. I love ticking things off, writing to-do lists, getting everything sorted. On Tuesdays, I love doing ads. So I spend pretty much all day Tuesday running analytics, crunching numbers, looking at data, figuring out strategy. On Wednesdays, I'm open to becoming a little bit more creative. On Thursdays, I love my self-worth. Pitch the negatives. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like,
Yeah, and I think if you're able to just go with the flow, as you say, then you'll be more successful than forcing yourself into a certain direction.
For sure. And following the signs, like, so the whole book writing thing, the memoir, I have no desire to write a memoir. I'm a reasonably young female. I've got a lot of life left to live and to learn. But the memoir came about through two really chance meetings. Basically, people contacting me out of the blue, and long story short, basically saying, "When are you writing a memoir?" So complete strangers that I don't even know about contacting me going, "When are you writing a memoir?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. What is this memoir? I've got no idea." And so that happened in August of last year. And this person's going, "No, you're going to write the memoir that's going to, change humanity." And I'm going, no, I'm not doing that. Thanks. Yeah. And then a similar kind of conversation happened in March. A person contacted me out of the blue, complete stranger, and was like, "Hey, when is that memoir coming?" I'm like, "What is this memoir?" So I just think that's signs, right? Like you don't have those conversations every day. That's a sign from the universe. Someone going, "Hey, Amber, follow that path."
Right. I'll give you a tip that I had an author on my podcast, and I don't know how many books, 20 something books. And he was asking me about writing a book about YouTube. But anyways, his advice was, if you just write for 15 minutes every day, that's all you need to do. And he said in 15 minutes, you can write about 500 words. Just 15 minutes every day. And he said, I don't know, in a few months, 2 or 3 months, you'll have a book. He said, that's all you have to do. Yeah. I haven't started writing, but I thought that was great,
Great, because it's such an overwhelming thing. Similar to your e-course, it feels like such an overwhelming thing to create. But when you chunk it down and you're just writing 500 words every day, it's manageable. I mean, anyone can manage that, right?
Right. Yeah. So the show, it's airing right now. When did you guys shoot it? Because especially with the COVID thing, did you shoot it like a year ago or 9 months ago, or when did that all take place?
Yeah. It's been in production for a little while now, and obviously there's been some setbacks with COVID, and and it's a project we've been talking about for years. So it's been on the cards for about 2 or 3 years now. So to see it on the screens is pretty insane, to be honest. It's and especially now, I was planning on being in LA when the show was airing. Obviously, I'm not welcome in that country right now, so even just that is a whole new way to learn how to surrender.
What about this? With the COVID, have you seen an increase in traffic within your own e-course business? I would assume 100%,
yeah. So we, I do a lot of advertising, Facebook and Instagram advertising, and I've been seeing cost per lead, so cost per acquisition rates as low as when I first started in 2015. So, if you're thinking about starting an online business, or you're thinking about learning how to do Facebook or Instagram ads, do it now, because no one is spending money on ads at the moment. So that's my main lead generation tool, is advertising, and it's super cheap right now, which is great.
That's a great tip. What about TikTok? Are you going to start advertising or doing any TikTok content?
I don't think I'm going to do it. I think
you're not going to dance on TikTok?
I used to be a professional dancer, and that's why I'm mildly offended at these TikTokers. I'm like, this isn't dancing. Like, learn how to dance, Yeah. So I feel like it's going to be the same as Instagram. So for me, I was like, I'm not doing the Instagrams. I'm on the Facebook. I don't even need to do that one. So I was the last person to get an Instagram following, and I feel like I'm doing the same thing with TikTok. No, that's not going to be a thing. And then, however, in 2 years' time, it's going to be all about TikTok.
Yeah, unless I don't know if you follow it much, but they're like, they've got like 40 something days to sell it, or it's banned in the US. So,
well, that's what I'm hoping. I'm just like, hopefully it'll just end. And then that's what, I don't have to feel guilt around not signing up. But I committed to launching my YouTube. Well, my YouTube channel has been around for a while. I've got lots of my old fashion and celebrity content around there. And there may even be content around your body shape and your skin tone on there for anyone who's watching. So you could probably just go and check that out. Okay. But I committed to putting out content on YouTube around creating online businesses, creating e-courses, creating funnels. So that's something I committed to this year. So I'm just like, Amber, 1 social network per year. Just relax. You don't need to learn a second one.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got a question here from the gallery. I noticed that you are the type of woman who likes to dress up, but since you started working from home, how can you handle to change your lifestyles as a fashionista?
So I spent the last year traveling as a digital nomad. So I lived in 1 suitcase for a year, which as someone who is wildly glamorous and now currently has 4 closets, it I now look at life as just like one giant experiment, like I don't ever think that anything is like, well, that's the end of my glamorous life, or like, now I'm just going to be living out of a suitcase forever. And I just think of like, I always just try to look for the positives in what my current environment and current situation is. So, every day when I was bending over a suitcase to rifle through to find that, same top that I've worn 400 times, did it get frustrating? Yeah, it was frustrating. But then I would go and sit out on a beach and work for the day. So then it was like, well, you got to take the positives with the negatives. And so I've just moved back into a house. It's the first time I've had a house in a year. I'm back in Sydney, back in Bondi, which is got lots of beautiful pros. Like all of my family is here. But then, and I get to wear all of my glamorous clothing again, which was a commitment that I made when I moved back. I was like, you know what? You've lived out of a suitcase for a year. You're going to wear your fabulous things around your house. Even if you're sitting by yourself and not talking to anyone, you're going to put something fabulous on. And even I do a weekly Instagram live stream. And so I find like for that, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to get all glammed up. This is going to be so fun. So I find that, just being grateful for what your current situation is. And obviously both have negatives. Like my negative here is that I'm currently in winter. I haven't done winter in 4 years. So, that's been a lot to deal with, having to be back in winter, but I'm back with family.
I want to get back to your show, but before I do, just something that crossed my mind. Why were you a digital nomad? What were you doing that caused you to need to travel like that?
So the accommodation that I was living in, I was in there for about 5 years. They were closing down the entire building and renovating the whole building. So we all had to leave. It was right at the start of last winter, and I don't do winter. So I'd already had like 3 or 4 months of travel booked in. And so the idea was to either find somewhere to rent in like 3 weeks before I was leaving, or just put myself stuff into storage and get on a plane. And so it just worked out that that's what happened. It wasn't my choice. I wanted to rent somewhere, couldn't get a rental, like could not get a rental. And this is another example of the universe stepping in, or a higher power, whatever you want to call your universe. So I've tried to apply for maybe 10 rentals over the last year. Could not get one. And, like I've got a good application, like I've got all the things lined up. I've got a long history of rental, receipts and things. And for the life of me, I just couldn't rent anywhere. So as a result, I just had to be homeless. So I was in America for a while. I went to Africa for a little bit and built an orphanage for the charity that my brother started. I came back here. I stayed at my brother's houses. I went to Queensland. I hung out with mom and dad for a bit. So I just kind of traveled around. But the whole time I was constantly asking my brothers to go and view property, go and have a look at this rental, putting applications in. For the life of me, couldn't get a rental. Then COVID happened. So I was up at mum and dad's in February. COVID happened, and my parents decided to divorce during COVID. They're 70 and 75 years old, like American. Yeah. And they don't have the emotional capacity to manage a situation like that. Fortunately, I've had quite a bit of therapy because of my life. So I decided to stay on during COVID and navigate that situation for them. So the blessing in that was, it was great that I could help them through that situation. And also up there where I was, we were still going to the beach every day. So COVID didn't really happen where mum and dad live. In Sydney, if I had a home, I would have been locked inside my home during summer beach weather. And that would have caused me a lot of pain. Like I would have really struggled with that, to not be able to go to the beach every day in the middle of summer. It would have been really hard for me. So at the time I was like, I can't get a house. This is the worst. Like what is wrong? Like so bad. And then that whole thing happened. COVID happened, mum and dad divorcing. And then literally as soon as everything kind of came up and my parents were settled and in separate houses, I applied for one house. This one, got a call the next day. Hey, you're approved. Moved in 3 days later. And it's my dream house. Oh, awesome. Cheaper than all the others that I was going for, way better, like 10 times better. And, I've spent the last year going like, why can't I get a house? Yeah. And this is why.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very happy.
Can you tell me, what is your show about?
So Dream Life follows myself and my business partner, Serena, setting up our new online learning academy called the Love Academy. And it follows the trials and tribulations of us setting up a business in LA. Serena wants to break into that, Hollywood life. So she's chasing that dream. And I'm trying to find love in La La Land. So I'm on all the dating apps. And then we have all of our, managers and publicists and advisors and influencer marketers and social media managers that are helping us on our business. The show follows our lives as well. So they're all, hustlers, if you will, trying to make it in Hollywood. And we follow the journey of all of us trying to chase our dreams.
Oh, did you know Serena before this started, or is it someone that you met for the show?
No, so Serena was a fan of mine when I was on Project Runway, and so she's sort of been in contact over the years if she's working on something and wants to get me on board. And we've shot a pilot previously a few years ago, which never went anywhere. And then this was the latest iteration of it's Serena's show. So she developed it, she created it, it's her show, and she's that's a whole nother story how a girl from Melbourne can get herself on a reality TV show on an American network. And so so she sort of wanted to bring me along for the ride.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's exactly because I was wondering, I was curious, just how did you get the show in the first place? But now we know, Serena.
Yeah,
Serena is the source. All right, so how do we find the show? Is it on? You said it's on FYI Network. Is it on any streaming places, or can you stream it from FYI?
So FYI, you need to have it's a cable network, I think. And then it's on Hulu Live, which is another like a subscription service, but it's about to go on Amazon Prime, which will happen late September. So I think by then, and that'll be global. At the moment, it's only available in America, but soon it's going to be global, which is kind of crazy to be on a global television series on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any other projects you're working on right now besides this?
Yeah, so I'm working on Dream Life, the book, which is the Boss Babe's Guide to Turning Your Online Business Dream into a Reality. So that book teaches you my 5-step formula, DREAM, for creating an online business. So did you want me to run through the formula?
It's up to you. I mean, it's if you wanna give it to us or make us buy the book, it's up to you.
No, I'll give you the overview. So D is define. So this is where we work on mindset, because as you know, success, and as we've heard from my story today, success is 80% mindset. So I work on things that I see a lot of women really struggling with. So perfectionism, imposter syndrome, fear of being seen, fear of being heard, building resilience, building self-love. So that's the first section. R is for rarify. This is where we make you more rare than a unique diamond. So this is where we develop your superpowers, uncover your genius zone, figure out who your ideal customers are, and really package you up as a powerful personal brand. E is for estate. So in the offline world, if you want to build wealth, you would go and buy an estate. Well, in the online world, we build our own estates. So this is where we create your legacy content. So your e-course, your ebook, your digital coaching package, whatever it is. A is for automate. As you know, I love the funnels. I love automation. I love setting up a freedom-based life. So that's what we teach you in automate. And M is magnetize. So this is where we go and magnetize your dream customers to you. So it's all traffic strategies, influencer marketing, and social media campaigns. So content that converts.
Interesting. When you were saying about the D, you said imposter syndrome. What is that?
So imposter syndrome is a psychological disorder where the person who is achieving has the inner critic that's telling them that they're either not worthy of that, or they're not good enough, or that someone's going to come along and find out that they're an imposter. So this is a really common syndrome, I guess. A lot of really famous people have spoken about it. Lady Gaga's talked about imposter syndrome. Tom Hanks, Sheryl Sandberg has talked about having imposter syndrome. So basically it's like, you're achieving and you're having this great success, but in your head, you're telling yourself that someone's going to come along and find out that you're a fraud or that you're a phony. So, it's really interesting. And I get it a lot. In fact, I've gotten it in the writing of this book. So for instance, the book is a formulation of everything that I've taught in my e-courses. So I've already taught this stuff before. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars from teaching this stuff. I'm very confident with teaching this stuff. But now the fact that I'm putting it into a book and I'm going to be an author, I'm getting a lot of imposter syndrome around. Well, who are you to be an author? You're not an author. Someone like you can't be an author. You haven't, had the right education, been to the right schools, whatever the story is that you tell yourself around why you couldn't possibly be that person, which is, as you say, it's interesting because it's like, this is the stuff I've been teaching for years. So why am I now not okay to put it in a book?
Yeah. You mean, to me, as long as you're successful at what you're teaching, that to me qualifies you to be a teacher.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. I wonder where do you think that stems from, that type of thought processes?
I mean, I guess everything just stems from a lack of self-worth, right? I think
Yeah.
if you speak to anyone, it just comes down to that. So do I feel worthy of calling myself an author? Well, I do kind of now, but like it was tricky when I was first, telling everyone about the book. I was like, oh, this feels really uncomfortable that I'm saying I'm now going to be an author. And certainly, the first time I told someone I was writing a memoir, oh my gosh, like my inner critic was going berserk around, who are you to write a memoir? Like you haven't lived anything. Like what? No, people who write memoirs are Maya Angelou and Michelle Obama. They're people that write memoirs. You don't write a memoir. Right.
Yeah, I understand that. Since it's back to fashion, what is the best skincare recommendation or tip do you have for glowing skin?
I get asked this all the time. So as someone who has tried every single skincare product on the market, I promise you, I've tried all of them, from La Mer and Dior and all the designer brands right through to, what do you guys call them? Drugstore brands. Honestly, I believe the best, and even all the clinician brands, I've tried all of them. These days, and the brand that I've been using for 3 or 4 years is DMK. D for dog, M for Mary, K for king. Okay. So DMK is a global brand. You can buy it online. There is clinicians near you that will sell it. And they just treat a range of, they're very specific with what they treat. So for instance, at the start of COVID, I had run out of all my DMK and I was up at my parents' house divorcing them. So I had to just use whatever my mum had, which was just coconut oil. So I was just using coconut oil on my face and soap to wash my face off with. And I developed really enlarged pores. Like I had really big pores really quickly after like a month. Wow. And so I rang my DMK guys here and I'm like, you guys have to help me. My skin is awful. I look really dehydrated. I've got giant pores. And please help me. So they sent me all the products that work with dehydration, pores, all that kind of thing. And after about a month, I was back to having really beautiful glowing skin because they treated all of the little symptoms that I have. So seriously, I am DMK for life.
Oh, that's amazing. While I have you here, maybe you might know. Do you know much about eczema? Like, I don't grow a full mustache because something to do with the hair follicles. I break out in eczema, so I just have to trim it down. Otherwise, like if I miss a couple days of shaving, hair grows, but I just get terrible eczema here, and it hasn't been that way my whole life. But
it has been, or it
has not? No, maybe in the last 10 years, but maybe because it could have been I just always shaved. Just this is new for me, right? For the last 10 years. But do you know anything about treating eczema?
So I can give you the what everyone is going to tell you to do, and then I can give you my woo-woo example if you would like. So speaking of DMK, they've got eczema treatments, so they can certainly help with the eczema treatment. They've got eczema cream, so that's DMK, they have that. So certainly start with a topical cream. My personal belief, which may be a little bit too woo-woo and for the audience, but we're going to go there because you asked. Okay, my personal belief is that any kind, and certainly anything like that, that's almost like a long-standing ailment, let's call it. I personally believe that's related to an emotional trauma that hasn't been dealt with. So if you Google Louise Hay, you can heal your life, eczema, I would have a read as to what she is saying is the cause of eczema. And it's an emotional, so like an emotional block in the body. And then I would work with someone who practices neuro-emotional techniques or even emotional freedom technique. And I would work with someone on that. And there's YouTube stuff around that, around clearing that emotional block. Because I believe things like that are long-standing. Like I used to have cancer, and I believe now if I were to get cancer, I would just go and treat the emotional cause around it. There's a great Netflix movie which explains this in more detail called Heal, 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 and it's literally explains what I've just done in much more scientific ways. Right. So go and check that out. Emotional healing.
That's great. Yeah, it was funny. It was about the time that I'd stopped practicing as a chiropractor and I transitioned to full-time YouTuber, and I had developed like terrible and it was a few months afterwards, and I think partly there was a stress because I had a potential lawsuit in my life about something different, but I had developed terrible heartburn, and I changed my diet, I tried everything that I could natural, and I finally went into the medical route and I got scoped, and luckily he said there's nothing, you're just stressed. So, and I tried like, the medication that they offered and it didn't really seem to work. And so finally I found some natural things and it helped some. And finally, what finally helped me in the end was when I would go to bed at night and be right, was as I was falling to sleep, I would put on YouTube videos of like brain healing music and just listen to that stuff and fall asleep to it. And perhaps it just kind of had some deep healing in my brain or something. And within about a month, it kind of cleared up.
I absolutely believe in it so much. When I had like the worst breakup from a relationship that I ever had, I dated the world's biggest narcissist. He did an absolute number on me. It was a very, very awful, awful experience. And as a result of breaking up from that experience, I had developed interstitial cystitis, which basically, if you go to a doctor, they tell you it's a permanent urinary tract infection that you have for the rest of your life. So and there's no treatment for it. And I went to every specialist to try and figure out how to, what caused it and how can I fix it? And specialist after specialist said, no, you'll live with this for the rest of your life. As in, every time you go to the bathroom for the rest of your life, you will be in pain. Wow. So that was their diagnosis. And I was like, well, that's obviously I'm not going to live with that. And so that's how I kind of figured out this whole energy healing thing, because I eventually started going down this path. And interstitial cystitis, the emotional connection is you're a bit pissed off.
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, well, I am a bit pissed off at that guy. And I was a bit pissed off with that guy. Right. So I eventually didn't do anything to heal the physical manifestation of that pain. I went and worked on the emotional manifestation of that pain, cleared my energy blocks, cleared all the trauma from that relationship. And, the cystitis cleared itself up. There was no medication that I took. It just sorted itself out.
Oh, that's awesome. So the ways to find you, we can find your show on the FYI network. We can stream it on Hulu. I think your website, can you tell us your website again? Is it Amber, Amber Courses?
Amber.courses will be the best place for your audience to go to. So if you go there, it's just a landing page that will link out to hour-long masterclasses that teach you all about what I talked about today. So I've got a free 1-hour class on how to be a fashion stylist, how to build an online business and build your funnels, how to become a personal brand and influencer marketing. So and mindset as well, which is obviously super important. So I have a free training program. Just go there, sign up to your free class and, learn away. What else is there to do right now in COVID? You might as well go and learn some new skills.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, before we wrap it up, do you have a message for the audience? Any one last message that you can give to us before we say sayonara?
So I think, firstly, trust that whatever you're going through at the moment, which I know is a difficult time for everyone, trust that the universe, or whatever you call your universe, that there is a higher power that's pointing you in the right direction. So on the days when you're waking up and you're feeling like you don't want to let go of this thing, like you're a fashion label or you're a fashion styling business, just remember that I'm now working from a tropical hut, or at least I was, and living my best life as a result of losing two things that I would never have voluntarily given up. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I wish you massive success with your book, with your e-courses, with your show. I hope your show goes many, many, many seasons.
Thank you.
And you never know. We may see you move from TV to the big screen.
Who knows, right? Who knows? I don't know what's in store. I'm just going along for the ride.
Yeah. You never know. All right. Well, thank you very much, Amber. Have a great evening.